welcome everyone. This is Nichel Anderson, and I'm your host for my podcast show. I'm going to be broadcasting my annual Power of Reading Week on both of my podcast shows. So that'll be Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, as well as Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. This particular focus is on my love of books, and I'm doing it in a way that I'm focusing on a particular time frame where I had got the opportunity to be an editor for Sweet101.com. And that was my introduction into this time period. When I was growing up, it really didn't have a lot of, you had to wait till you go to college to kind of get more into, depending on what school you went to focus on Black history. And after college is where I had got this opportunity to be the editor of the columnist of Sweet101.com. So we can kind of get into that a little bit to pivot towards this week where I'll focus on reading. Let me go ahead and say my opening prayer and we'll get started. So in this day, I am thankful to God that I give ultimate praise and gratitude for this blessing of my podcast shows, the opportunity to share for others of the collective that they can as well move forward on their journey and learn from what my platform aims to provide, that I will use it for the greater good in the name of Jesus. Amen. Hallelujah. And I'm releasing this on a very special anniversary. So my podcast shows, I'm going to release on both of my shows. So that would be Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond, and Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. Let's go ahead and get into this. I don't want this to be long, but the first announcement basically is that I am relaunching my NFTs. That's PMTR NFTs, and the PMTR, for those that just kind of learning about this, stands for the Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion. Okay, and I created this collection a couple of years ago. Today marks the third year that I initiated the contract on the Ethereum blockchain. Why is that important? Well, that's important because it shows the journey and the investment of my brand, of my dream, of bringing my Egyptian book, my memoir, turning it into a motion picture, a film. Also, I want to kind of touch on is that the date that I chose is it means something to me because it's connected to Dr. W.E.B Du Bois. If you've been following me, he's one of my favorite historian figures in history. There are others, but he stands out the most. I resonate with this message. I resonate with the opportunities that I got to be connected to his work and his other artists that was around him, which that's where I want to pivot to the Renaissance. So just before I get into the Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion of the relaunch, I want to kind of hone on why I'm connecting and choosing that day to relaunch on his birthday, which is February the 23rd. That's the same week I designated for my schedule, my podcast show here, and on both my podcast shows that I will be re-releasing the NFTs for minting. Minting, if you're just joining me, is basically where you're purchasing something on the blockchain. It's your lifetime receipt. It's your investment. Think of it as you purchase like art and you keeping it. You have it and you have the authenticity certificate for it, and you don't really have to worry about trying to put it here or a safe deposit box. It is on the blockchain. So W.E.B Du Bois was a very famous person in history, and he wrote the book The Souls of Black Folks. That's why I'm taking even more time going through his essays and reading it during my Power of Reading Week. And he had a particular essay, and it calls Of the Wings of Atlanta. So that really was where it's just a kind of overview as the potential for Atlanta to aspire spiritually, intellectually, of their calling, and I connect with that. So in my song MOLIAE, Kismet Renaissance, Kismet means destiny, fate. Renaissance to me is bringing something new, a rebirth as well, but a collective of talented people that he started way back years ago, and that was positioned in New York City. I just have a calling now, fast forward, that the torch has been passed on, and now it is in Atlanta, and I'm going to call it, is the new epic entertainment center. On all aspects, it is birthing the new Renaissance. and I feel comfortable of saying it and position it that way. W.E.B Du Bois was born in Massachusetts, but he also traveled Philadelphia, all different places, and New York City was the home of the first Harlem Renaissance. And that's some of the artists that I'm reading in my Power of the Week reading in February. And he also was in Atlanta. And I always said, if you watch my clip about my song, Atlantans, I love history, and every time I read different artists, different, people in history, they always traveled through Atlanta. Always. They might didn't stay long, but I just felt that pull, as if that energy of that. And for him to do that, and then he left the United States and moved to Ghana, it means something, y'all. It means something. Our ancestors that plant the seeds before of what they do, what they say, can harvest and manifest maybe 50 or 60 or 100 years. And now we're marking on at least about 100 years ago, what have you, in the sense of his journey and his message, and when he wrote that essay. So to me today, with the DTC movement, meaning direct to consumer, is empowering us with this creativity. Back then it was for African Americans primarily because of what was going through after the Reconstruction, what have you, and slavery and all of that. But forward moving, that it's a collective in a sense of expressing, having the freedom to express the message and their journey that can help not just humanity, but Mother Earth. Everything is the new Renaissance. It's coming through art, it's coming through music, it's coming through different ways, but this is it. And that's what I want to touch on. And that's one of the big reasons, also because I love him. I just love his work and what he did, and the people that supported him too. Will be February 23rd, 2026. I'm going to relaunch it. And this is my call out. If you're interested, thank you so much. If you're not, and you just want to kind of share it with somebody else, thank you so much. But let's go through the points of it, because I don't want this to be long. The Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion is 10,000 of pyramids that I created, right? These are my pyramids that I came up with to express. They're a total of 10,000. Each of them, of course, is on the Ethereum blockchain. It's one of the prestigious blockchains that you can have. That means a lot of people have access to it, that when you purchase it, if you want to sell it, you can. The main element with that, with the pyramids, is that they have symbols. So not just the pyramid, there's symbols with it. The surfboard, the numbers, different shapes, the colors. All of that is energy. All of that represents a message. Each one of them has a serial number. I love numbers. Numbers don't lie. And so it's a group of serial numbers of 10, and within that 10,000 they will have a serial number. That means something as well. Each of them is a character or belonging to a group of class. As you can see, the title is a class reunion. The timeline is before what we know here on earth, or Tamat that they said before. It connects to ancient Egypt, Mitzrayim, Kemet, and I added a big value as well. But just to let you know, it does connect to my MOLIAE short stories, which is the genealogy of my book, Mitzrayim, A Memory of a Past Life in Ancient Egypt, and of course now my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. So it also added a big value as well, that I said that embedded in the NFT is numerology and astrology. If you think of the wise man, they was basically both of that, because they used the stars to find where Jesus was located at. So with that in itself helps to understand what the overall collection is, and you can be able to get an understanding. All right, so numerology and astrology is embedded in the NFT. That gives it the more value and positioning within the collection itself. So the owners will also get a decode book. That decode book is located on the mint.moliaeworld.com, where the owner can download that and use that to decode their message. So ancient Egyptians was very spiritual. They definitely love numbers and astrology. Like I just mentioned, that example with the wise man, to help to locate Jesus back then in the regards is to help them in the regard, I should say, to get to where they need to go. And that can be in modern time, help to make decisions, get clarity of where you're at. And numbers are in the Bible itself. So I love numbers. The pyramid itself is based on numbers. When you do how the calculation to be able to get that shape, to position in a certain place, that is like right in the position of star cancellations. So the decode book is free to the owner. They can download with their NFT. This also helps a big value that when they sell it, that message changes because it's a new owner, and that owner date of birth for the most part would be different. The time would be different of the birth. All of that plays into calculating what's the message for the owner. You see? So that's one of the big gems that I really love about my collection. Now I want to pivot towards the founders. The founders 50. I will release more detail on that. Basically, there was the initial 50 that will help to, of course, purchase the NFTs, but they also get benefits for being the first 50. They would get on the right list, and they would be able to have to purchase 1 week before. So the Founders 50 that you get basically like a platinum card in a way, because you get access to all my other brand extended out of my dream that I've been having, and that's like MOLIAE Beauty, MOLIAE, my future film in the sense of that, meaning access to it when it's released. All my other type of things that I have released, you get access to that either free or very discounted on that. So the Founders 50 is the position you want to go when I release that, is to get it then, because as this continue to evolve, and I feel that with God, He's going to make it so in that sense of being blessed that you want to be a part of that 50, and then the rest will go to public. And let's see, I wanted to cover that. I wanted to kind of talk about also other things, the token. I'm still working on that. That will be a future play, as well as the MOLIAE NFT game. So just to recap the date for minting my NFTs on February the 23rd, 2026 is my first collection. I plan on having another one, which is going to be related to the lions and the story. I plan to release PMTR short stories, so that would be new, and that would tie to the NFT collection. So whoever do get one, this in a sense that it's not just art and then that's it. It's breathing, it's alive, it's moving forward. It's part of the ecosystem of my MOLIAE that I'm understanding of the calling that God wanted me to create and to express. Part of this renaissance that I'm talking about, that is so many talented people that are here and ready to express. They need that freedom. So with the DTC movement, by coming direct to us, helps us to be able to expand and to sustainability, to continue that brand message of our power, of our freedom. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up because I don't want it to be long, but I do appreciate your time. And I just want to announce this wonderful anniversary of the 3rd year that I have my NFTs on the blockchain, that I took the initiative. I studied as fast as I could to understand it. I released the collection, I did the contract, and now here I am in the position to re-release this on the day, on Monday, on February the 23rd, which has happened to be one of my mentors in history, Dr. W.E.B Du Bois, and his renaissance that he started, I feel now has pivoted to now of manifested in the physical with my song, MOLIAE Kismet Renaissance, with the lanterns, and to have that message of empowerment and the freedom of expression. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So today I'm going to focus on part 4. I'm making it part 4, reading the essay by Dr. W.E.B Du Bois of the Rings of Atlanta. And I'm taking my time, as you can, if you go back and you see that I did part 1, part 2, and so forth. Now I'm on part 4 because I just love, reading his essays. His essays were very long. They're almost like short stories in a way, several pages if you think about it. So to give it the justice and the great admiration of his work, I'm taking my time to break it up in parts. All right. And when I started this year to get ready for this week, I realized that as I'm going through the enormous work of so much talent during the Harlem Renaissance, most of the work, particularly of his books, what have you, I will break it up like this because you have to give them their props, their accolades of what wonderful work that they contributed during that era, and I don't want to rush it, so that's why I'm breaking it in parts on that part. But anyway, to kind of get to an overall of what this is going to be, I want to pivot for a moment and kind of go on an outline of what we're going to be talking about this particular week of my power of reading. And today is going to be, of course, continuing the essay with W.E.B Du Bois. And I did a previous recording as I connected his prophecy of Atlanta, where that's, to me, we're starting a new era of a renaissance. I believe that that portal is here in Atlanta. I think that's what he was communicating, the greatness of what Atlanta could be, the greatness of what Atlanta seeded on in the beginning. He was there in the beginning, if you think about it in a way. And like he foreseen that what he would be eventually a part of, which is the Harlem Renaissance, connected to that, one of the pioneers to structure that. And it will also be birthed again. I know they said it was like a second Renaissance during the 70s, what have you. And this way, I guess this would be the third type one. This one, the third time around now, is to me, it's much different because now we have other ways to contribute directly to the artist. They have more means to create things. And after Martin Luther King and even Malcolm, because that time period was still building for equality, I feel that if you go back to his essays, particularly one of Wings of Atlanta, that's what he's telling us. He's predicting what Atlanta would be. Even though the Harlem Renaissance started in New York, it's going to be a transition. Instead of people migrating up north from the south, it's almost like people migrating to Atlanta at this time. What would that Renaissance overall message be? That's yet to be determined, but I do feel that with so much talent and so much access to resources of what those pioneers did after W.E.B Du Bois and all those that contribute to it, you was in the era of Martin Luther King and then Malcolm and then forward moving, we in the 70s and now we're in the 80s and so forth. But I think now is coming to the time of a collective, because both of them basically was fighting for equality and to emerge culture, but not by judging by how they look, of their skin color, but of the content of their character. So when we go back to what W.E.B Du Bois was saying in the essay of the Wings of Atlanta, is to live up to more than the glamour. It's as if he saw it in the future of what Atlanta could be, and to stand on that high status, acceptance of understanding and responsibility of expression. I feel that he just saw that. And if you go back into his essays, particularly this one, he was always striving forward and very outspoken in how things should be on the fairly. So I feel like I have a separate podcast, like really overall talking about that essay, talking about what I feel now, what we call the DTC type renaissance, where we are our own ecosystem, okay? And with that, with being in position to produce and to have the freedom to collab with different groups, different people for different backgrounds, different culture, different ethnic culture. We are part of that mix of Martin Luther King and what Malcolm as well wanted to bring forth. They had a fight for it. And with that, now we are in a position to create extraordinary things. And there's so many talented people that I came across with that I feel that Mecca is Atlanta. And that's what W.E.B Du Bois was saying. Are you going to be up to what the expectation is to live, to harness what him and other historical figures do in his time? And then you had Martin Luther King and Malcolm and, other leaders as well during the 60s. And then now fast forward, here we are. And that's the third, to me, generation. So this is very particular in this generation because of what opportunities that we have. And now we still got the issues with the content of not our character, but how we look. It's nowhere near what it was back then. So at any rate, I do plan to kind of have a podcast that I'm solely talking about that, the connection of his prophecy. I already did one. I think I'm going to do a part 2 to really kind of get more into it, talk about the history, comparing it, and seeing what's out there now. All right, so that's with that. And really what we're going to open today is with his essay part 4. And I like to kind of do a review of that section. And then tomorrow, I wanted to focus on the Harlem Renaissance, like setting up for this particular week made me fall in love with the Harlem Renaissance all over again. Like when I had that opportunity at Sweet 101, it was where I was able to kind of really dig into the history of all those talented artists, not just with books, but with music, with art. And it helped me to kind of really frame of my heritage of what we call African American hair in the United States. And so I wanted to take a time to, because that's basically what I'm connecting to right now, is to use this week to focus on reading, but also on history and the Harlem Renaissance. I was loved the opportunity, and I was able to tap into all those wonderful talented people and their message through their creativity, which is similar to now here, modern time. And so I'm going to focus on the history of the Harlem Renaissance. I'm going to talk about different areas, not just books, but poetry, of course. I'm going to talk about that. And then the culture and the music and who was, created it in a sense of just what we should call it. This is what should be. W.E.B Du Bois was all into it. They call him like he was like the gatekeeper, what have you. They helped to build it, but it was other architects, and I want to kind of take a moment to kind of give that some highlight to look in the Harlem Renaissance of the other players. So that's going to be planning for tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, oh my gosh, there's going to be several seasons because I'm really going to take my time on this book that I just fell in love with when I found out about this particular author, when I had to research and get really into the Harlem Renaissance, when I applied for it and I got the opportunity to be over the column there, online magazine there. And this is for Zora Neale Hurston. The book is titled Their Eyes Were Watching God. I remember when I found out about the book and I read the title, like, wow, that's a powerful title. And when I read it, oh my gosh, it's something where when you read a book and you just memorize that, like you don't want to stop reading, but you gotta do this and do that. And all day you think about, I cannot wait till I finish doing this so I can go back and continue on the experience. And this book, I just absolutely fell in love with it. It is just my heart of hearts. I'm really gonna take my time. I got my tea right here, y'all, ready for it. So I'm going to take the time to also read the foreword. It was Miss Washington that did that on the edition that I have. And then of course, Henry Louis Gates Jr., he was one of the pioneers that got all the good stuff of doing the autobiography of major players in history, particularly African American, and he does the afterthought. So I'm going through the book from the beginning to the end. I'll be reading the foreword and then reading part of the, 1 or 2 pages, taking my time. I like to take my time with this because it's such good work. I don't want to rush it and I love it. It's like eating the best food. Good friends and family, okay? Real good friends and family. And so we're going to really go through it. We're going to go through her history and her journey. We're going to go through the politics of it, of why it's like took a while before she really accolades, I would say, of her work. There was a lot of things that, came to pass that it seemed like it wasn't on point on that guard. But we're going to take a look at that. I'm really taking my time. So it might be several seasons by the time I finish with this book. I love it. But that's the book on that on Wednesday the 25th. I'll be doing the foreword, like I said, and probably the story. I can get it in because I want it to be the way that is presenting who she is, what she accomplished, why her writing was so profound. Like I said, when I read it, I can't even explain it. I was speechless, cried, laughed, everything. That's when you know it's good writing, when you have all that different emotion. It just touched my heart. The title is just profound. I just love everything about it. The way she writes is something that, she's a master of the emotion and describing things in the sense that you're not only right there, but you can connect to it in different perspective. So I want to take my time. So it's all about Miss Hurston, okay, this year. And then Friday, I'm going to talk about my top 5 reasons why reading gives you your freedom. And I'm looking forward to that. Let's go ahead and get started in here. We're going to talk about Dr. W.E.B Du Bois and of the Rings of Atlanta. This is going to be part 4. And let's go ahead and let's get started. And just right quick, where I left off, I'll leave the links to the previous ones that I did, what those stats were. So for this particular essay, I did previous ones. And stay tuned. I might end up doing another one of his essay that I love. I love all of them. This adore Du Bois, if you've been following me, of the quest of the golden fleece. A lot of people like that when I started reading that. So I might finish up. I think I need to start on part 2. So I kind of went back to Of the Rings of Atlanta. I'm just called to it to do part 2, which is in part 3. So I might as well do a bonus and focus back on the quest of the golden fleece. But right now we're going to do this one here. But to go back in time, I did the Of the Wings of the Atlanta. That was part 1. It was read. That was for 2024. So it's February 23rd, 2024 on his birthday. Right now that's up to 1,249 downloads. You can go back and check that. That's also around the time that I released. That's the date I released my song Kingship, and I dedicate that to him. Then we have Power Reading Week. That's season 8 of The Wings of Atlanta. That was continuation part 2 and 3. That was last year, February 17th, 2025. Right now, currently it's at 709 downloads. And then I recently did one in December when I connected the dots not only to my song, but to I feel like this is the era of the new Renaissance. And the title of that is A Prophecy of the Wings, how he's connecting the rings with Atlanta, how I connect it with my own, with my music, and what I feel is the new generation, because it's so particular, very high talented people that I came across. That's by doing my music, but other ways too in my writing and so forth, and what people are creating. And that's also saying The Prophecy of the Wings, Dr. W.E.B Du Bois, Atlanta, and the PMTR Relaunch, which is my NFTs. It was December the 29th. 2025, and so right now that's about close to 100 downloads because I just kind of released that. But nonetheless, here we are. Let's go ahead and get started with this part 4, Dr. W.E.B Du Bois of the Wings of Atlanta, part 4. The South laments today the slow, steady disappearance of a certain type of Negro, the faithful, courteous slave of other days, with his incorporable honesty and dignified humility. He is passing away just as surely as the old type of Southern gentleman is passing, and from not dissimilar causes. The sudden transformation of a fair, far-off idea of freedom into the hard reality of bread winning, and the consequent defalcation of bread. In the black world, the preacher and teacher embodied once the ideas of this people, the strife for another and a juster world, the vague dream of righteousness, the mystery of knowing. But today the danger is that these ideas, with their simple beauty and weird inspiration, will suddenly sink to a question of cash and a lust for gold. Here stands this black young Atlanta, girding herself for the race that must be won. And if her eyes be still toward the hills and sky, as in the days of old, then we may look for noble running. But what if some ruthless or wily, really or even thoughtless hippopotamus lay golden apples before her? What if the Negro people be wooed from a strife for righteousness, from a love of knowing to regard dollars as the be all and in all of life? What if to the mammonism of America be added the rising mammonism of the reborn South, and the mammonism of this South be reinforced by the budding mammonism of its half-waking black millions? Whither, then, is the new world crest of goodness and beauty, in truth gone glimmering? Must this and that fair flower of freedom, which despite the jurors of later day, striplings sprung from our fathers' blood, must that too degenerate into a dusty crest of gold, into lawlessness, lust with hippopotamus? Insane. So this here is another way where I feel like Du Bois wanted to kind of talk about the politics as well as mirroring to an example of the story of where you can get caught up, particularly when he used the lust of gold, and to aspire where things like don't get caught up. If I kind of break it down simple on that part, don't get caught up in the sense that you're not remembering the call for action, the call for looking beyond the wealth, looking beyond the power and the prestige, and understanding you can get caught up to the point that nothing gets done, nothing forward move. So with that, he wanted to kind of understand it, and in that way he was comparing it, like what if, like he says it here, what if the Negro people be ruled by a strife for righteousness, from a love of knowing to regard dollars? So it's almost like I look at that where he's trying to communicate the materialistic things is not bad. It's just the saying that there's something more to that. The prestige is being a leader, being a vibration of an energy. I can kind of compare it to now as we use that frequency type code word language now, is that finding the righteousness of the balance and not being ruled by materialistic things, aspiring for great things, but not necessarily that it takes away your soul. So this essay is a collection of his essay that is a book entitled The Souls of Black Folk. So it's like, if I go back in history in a sense from when this book was written, it's the strive to move forward out of slavery, getting forward, finding your own identity, and then getting, not getting caught up in it. And the greatness of what he, to me, even with this essay, had to be something unique, because only certain topics or certain areas got into his book that just became famous. So to put Atlanta in it, is he talks of other areas, because he basically was a socialist as well, means something. And when he said, whither then is the new world crest of goodness and beauty, and thus gone glimmering? So again, it's like, don't get caught up in self. Don't get caught up in the power of what great Atlanta can be, but to look at it in a way of responsibility of being a leader, to be at that high status in the sense that you're influencing other people. So when he said, again, going back to this statement here, what if the Negro people be ruled from a strife for righteousness, from a love of knowing to regard dollars? Like, don't get caught up in the sense of the wealth, the influence, but to remember of the strife or the understanding to inspire to be the greatest that you can be. That's basically overall what the essay is of the Wings of Atlanta. And to do that is to, hone on, the best. And if I go back, he says something else that's kind of connected to it. And that's where what I started off, for this part 4. The South laments today the slow, steady disappearance of a certain type of Negro, the faithful, the courteous slave of other days, with his incorporated honesty and dignified humility. And with that, I think what he was trying to say when he later used the word phrase is the sudden transformation of a fair, far off idea of freedom into the hard reality of bread winning and the consequent of defalcation of bread. So to me, that is connected to, because he did work towards fair equality in employment. It was hard at times to find work for black folks. So he always found a way to weave that in. He wanted fair across all areas, education, um, economics, in the sense of working, that a black family can be able to strive towards. So in that statement that I just repeated on this section here, honesty and dignified humility, like they want to strive for the destiny, the opportunity. He felt that more wealth and prestige will come into Atlanta and therefore be the beacon of light, have things set up that it can provide a real dream of righteousness towards achievement. And so we see that when he says in here, in the black world, the preacher and the teacher embodied once the ideas of this people, the strife for another and a juster world, the vague dream of righteousness, the mystery of knowing. But today, the danger is that these ideas, with their simple beauty and weird inspiration, would suddenly sink to a question of cash, there you go, and a lust of gold. So to me, he was setting the stage of what he felt that Atlanta was going to be on a path to be an area that would draw and magnetize the greatest of what black folk can be, in a sense. And I have to talk in that regard because this book was written in a time where they needed leadership to where they need to go and where they need to strive for. Now we fast forward to now, here is 2026. And I think that what he was saying back then was like he already foreseen what Atlanta would become, which is basically a world global epic center of entertainment and of other areas too. And to be a leader and to do that is the balance of righteousness. So when I go back to this phrase here, we said the strife for another and a juster world, the vague dream of righteousness. So you want to not to have just a vague dream, you want to be able to implement it, and it is a reality. It is what it is, and it's not chasing dollars. It's not manipulating the flow of the resources, not being ruthless. He says it here. And then we may look for noble running, but what if some ruthless or wily or even thoughtless hippopotamus, in that sense, hippopotamus, you know what I mean, lay golden apples before her. So it's like not thinking of self, because he felt that Atlanta, you're going to be the 100 hills of dreams, of things that would be in history, that would be a platform for freedom of expression in that sense, and not wrapped up in the goodness and the selfness that it can be if there's lust of something instead of giving in that regard. So he did put Atlanta on the high pedestal, I think, overall reading this essay. He did push forward of where areas it needs to be, these are the areas it needs to be looked at. And in order to do that, you have to find that balance to know what is fair and what is not, and not get caught up in self. So I love this particular section. This is of the essay. I highly recommend to read his book. And right now, I'm going to actually close out this part, and then I'll start the next part, which would be part 5. Like I said, I'm taking my time, so y'all decide to deal with on that. But I love it, and reread it, and have a better understanding. But he had very high hopes for it, as he also worked in Atlanta University. Dr. Du Bois did. So I'm just kind of now looking at the future pages I'm going to read, and I'm just still loving all of it. It's just beautiful, his writing. So without that's a wrap, okay? All right, thank you so much for listening for my first day of Power of Reading Week. I hope you enjoyed this essay. It really makes you think because he used different phrases of words and expression and metaphors to kind of outline what he wanted to communicate. But if I had to take one thing away from this particular part of the essay, is that he wanted to express the different ways that you can get caught up. And as he saw Atlanta would be the wings that would take off, because I felt overall, he felt that the issue with Black folks, we're going to eventually get to the point of having what we did not get, coming out of slavery, what have you, moving forward and having a commune of activity. I'm going to go into it the next time I talk about mainly the Harlem Renaissance. But there were, people helping to create those platforms that we're calling now the Harlem Renaissance and the Negro Urban League, which was a part of creating the magazine called Opportunity, which that's where Langston Hughes, Zara Neale Hurston came out of, a whole bunch of other people, and how W.E.B Du Bois saw that it's only going to get better. It's only going to help the movement for equality. So now we move forward. We still got issues now today, but we still have a definitely more freedom of expression. We're able to connect and collide. And I just feel that is the humming part of this new era of the Renaissance here in Atlanta. So it's a calling. And like I said, he could have wrote of any city. Like I said, he was actually born in Massachusetts and he'd been in New York. Been all over the place, but he picked that for a reason. So it means something. So as we go back and look at the essay, I think overall he was prepping and preparing, basically saying in the future, all this, what is going on now in his time, somehow it's going to be resolved to the point that it will be, I guess you say in the scripture that I'm quoting now, the meek shall inherit the earth. I would take that as if the new era, which is now, I feel, is the birth of the dreams of them that wanted to be free of expression, to connect and to create with different people and expression. And with that power, manage that power and don't abuse it. Don't have lust for gold or lust for self and beauty. That's not really going to sustain yourself. To feed the soul. Remember, his book is called The Souls of Black Folk. So you can learn from that by saying, understanding the balance of that power, the balance of influence. Atlanta will have influence. Atlanta will draw and be able to connect with this new art of expression, and particularly now with the DTC and a different types of ecosystem in the sense of expression and be able to collect and to have. So that's kind of go deep into what we're talking about Web3. But nonetheless, I think overall he foresaw the future of that Mecca honing on now, in Atlanta, the wings. All right. We're going to move on. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll talk to you in the next one of my Power of Reading Week. All right.
We stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings of Atlanta. We stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings of Atlanta. We stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings of Atlanta. Kings, we are restless. For unity of our royalness.
We soar like never before.
Nichel MOLIAE, mold of divinity. Empress. For unity of our royal Nichel MOLIAE, leaders of who we are. Atlantis, never fall from greatness. We forever stand tall. Atlantis.
We raise that bar, we raise that.
Hey yo, Queen Empress, Nichel MOLIAE.
Sustainability give us. We
Stand tall, never fall to the rise with wings of Atlanta. and Nichel MOLIAE for unity of our royalness. Nichel MOLIAE, we never been, we rise to never end. We are the Atlanteans.
Moments always better within years of warranty.
Atlantis, sea of gold. We gon' fall. We manifest. We raise that bar. Success. We are of divinity. Never rest. Standing in our divinity of our royal race. Atlantis. MOLIAE. While we are sing glory, we make for all the saints. Yeah.
We raise that
Nichel MOLIAE, Queen Empress. Nichel MOLIAE, one of us. You hear me? We are. We refrain from Mars. We are bold like no others. Of divinity. They wish better men success for unity. No of our royalness. We are Atlantis. Nichel MOLIAE, we never been. We rise to never end. Power break. We are power. We are power. The Atlantis. Power mate. No little. No richer. We have crownship of kings and queens. Martin history. We Atlantis. Creativity. Time is now. The time has come. Who is that? Will you be ready? Of all those famous must enter domain of Atlanta.